Thank you. Good afternoon, and thanks for coming out on this rainy day. We'll now commence the Enforcement Committee meeting of the Contractor States License Board. I'm Ed Lang, the Enforcement Committee Chair. Will the April 1st meeting of the Contractor State License Committee come to order? Only board members who are members of the committee may sit at the table. Other board members who are in attendance must observe from the audience. If the quorum of a board is present, those members who are observing cannot participate in the discussion. We'll now do the committee members and staff introductions. Let's start on my left.
David Fote, Chief of Enforcement.
John O'Rourke, Board Member.
Anna Rodriguez, Enforcement.
Christina Delp, Deputy Chief Enforcement.
Kurt Hepler, Senior Staff Counsel.
Laura Zuniga, Legislation.
Steve Sands, Registrar.
Cindy Christensen, Chief Deputy Registrar.
Frank Shutter, Board Member.
Let's go in the audience, please.
Jane Flint, Northern Swift.
Mark Bautista, Fresno, Swift, Dicey.
Maureen Kirk, Butte County Supervisor.
Rick Clements, owner of Pool Builders.
Joan Hancock, Board Member.
Dave Diaz, Board Member.
Karen Robinson, Chief of Licensing.
Samaraz, Northern Swift.
Blake Williams, Northern Swift.
John Miller, Northern Swift.
Beverly Carr, Politico Group.
Joseph Martinez, Investigation Center. Dave Murillo, Cal Paso.
Steve Breen, Public Affairs.
Ted Rieger, Indoor Comfort News.
Doug Galbraith, CSLB Enforcement.
Tammy Boardman, Enforcement.
Missy Bickford, Enforcement.
Scott Weber, Enforcement. Richard Markson, Pacific Advocacy Group.
Phil Vermeulen.
Rick Pierce, Basic Crafts.
Rick Lutz from Public Affairs.
Board members coming in now. Okay. Would you like to, You're just in time to introduce yourself. Thank you. Okay, to give you some little highlights of what happened in the past few weeks, Chief Dave Folk had an opportunity to speak to the Little Hoover Commission last week to explain the positive progress CSLB has achieved in combating the underground economy and made recommendation to continue to be successful in curbing the underground economy in the future. You know, that's a big problem with what we're doing. The Enforcement Division has been busy protecting consumer of California. Last week, the SWIFT unit conducted a spring splits where investigators posed as homeowners seeking bids for home improvement projects ranging from painting, electrical, landscaping, flooring, drywall, and concrete work. Let's go to agenda item B, and I'm moving forward in my notes. Oh, good, okay. Correction on that. We have with us today Maureen Kirk, Supervisor of Butte County, and we appreciate your coming today. Butte County Supervisor Maureen Kirk has been serving the county board for 8 years. Since 2005, Supervisor Kirk has brought a national solution-oriented approach to the county board and is committed to keeping physical affairs a priority in the county. She has made 2 trips to Sacramento to brainstorm construction and consumer protection issues with CSLB. Supervisor Kirk is dedicated to partnering with consumers, the construction industry, and CSLB to combat unlicensed activities. As some of you may be aware, last month CSLB and Butte County partnered to implement the Eyes on Site pilot program in Butte County. This program provides for volunteer industry experts to assist in verifying leads, identifying unlicensed and uninsured contractors in Butte County who informed CLC investigators. This would not have been accomplished without the support of Butte County Supervisor Maureen Kirk. Through her support of new innovative strategies, Butte County is at the forefront of the battle against unlicensed and uninsured contracting. Supervisor Kirk continues to be instrumental in assisting CSLB with its ongoing mission to protect California consumers. She was influential in obtaining the support of County Board to approve an ordinance requiring workers' compensation insurance for all swimming pool construction project in Butte County. Tremendous task. We would like to recognize you today for your outstanding public service as demonstrated by your dedication to partnering with CSLB. Will you come forward, please? Up this way? Yeah. If you come around, yes. You want me out of here? Yeah, you have to move. We have, while she's coming, we have our chief of our board here, and would you say a few words, please?
Hi, Joan Hancock, Board Chair. A few years ago, our Enforcement Division launched what is known as the PAC program, and that stands for Partnering Agencies County Task Force. And this program endeavored to partner with individual DAs and building officials in California, and it turned out that Butte County was our leading county, our role model, and that the Board of Supervisors were very supportive in this effort, and that you are a standout. I Googled you just a minute ago to also find out that you're a building contractor, so welcome that as well. And I want to thank you on behalf of our board for being here and for all the support that you have lent in our efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Chief, will you come over here? And Chief Folk and Steve Sanders?
Could I just say a couple words?
Sure.
Well, we started this a long time ago, and I brought my Rick Clemens CSLB file, and it's this thick. And it shows that government time takes a while, but you can get there if you want to. And I actually have to say that Rick Clemens has been in the forefront and has brought all these ideas to the Butte County. And Nancy Springer has been very supportive. So it's a work that we've all done together. And I've mostly been, as I've said, the cheerleader. And gotten the other board members to agree too. So I think it's going to be a great program. Underground economy is just, it's brutal, and we need to, elevate our enforcement and get the good guys to be the successful contractors and make it work for everybody. So thank you so much.
Now it's photo time.
Okay.
Let's come back here with the, and then a presentation here for you.
Okay.
Yeah. Nancy, would you come up also? Although, Rick, can you hear me when I read this?
Yeah, as long as your microphones are open.
This one?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. All right. Certificate of recognition, Maureen Kirk. CSLB recognizes your exceptional contribution to the people of Butte County, the California construction industry, and CSLB ongoing mission to protect California consumers. CSLB recognizes your outstanding public service as demonstrated by your dedication and partnership in the Eyes on Site pilot program. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Official picture, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
There you go.
File here.
I really thank you for coming out today to receive that award, because now we can put a face to the work that you've been doing, so thank you very much. It is now time to ask the public. This item is provided for public comments pertaining to items on the agenda, as well as items not on the agenda. However, the committee cannot take any action on these items not listed on the agenda. Are there any individuals that wish to address the committee at this time? Okay. Go to the mic.
Good afternoon, board members, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to further expound on the Eyes on Site program. And I'd like to say that really the whole entire process of my involvement with the CSLB and Larry Back, my partner from Northwest Pools, started many years ago down in Monterey. And David Vogt came right up to us and made us feel most welcome, and he's always worked with us. He's encouraged ideas, and it's been a great pleasure working with you, David, really. You're a friend, and you're good at what you do. When I came up with the Eyes on Site program, the reason that this was born or came about was because in talking with the many, many contractors that I know, every one of them pointed out that they knew of at least 2 or 3 illegals that were operating in the area, but they had nowhere to go to get their complaint heard. And so over a period of a couple of years, we started to put this program together, and David and I tweaked it, and then we brought it to Marine, and Marine got everybody behind it. And the latest thing that I'd like to bring to the board's attention about this is that originally I was supposed to go out and drive around and meet with contractors and get them on board with this. But then I thought about it, and I thought, well, we need to save money as well. So I came up with the idea and ran it by Dave to take a bunch of these to each county building department in our area. I've already taken them to Glenn County. All the cards were gone within 3 days. And what we would like to do is in Butte County, Maureen has agreed to meet with Tim and Nancy, and we're going to ask that every permit that is issued gets one of these. And we feel we can be, our penetration would be double what I could do by just driving around. And I've also been meeting with contractors personally, and they're all for it. I have not heard anybody say anything bad about this. They're actually looking forward to it working. So I'd like to ask, or seek the board's help in getting as many of these as we can, because I would love to do the same thing in Glenn County and Shasta County and Tehama County. We can reach hundreds and hundreds of contractors that way. And believe me, they really, really want to get involved in this. So thank you for your time. And again, thank you, David and Maureen and Nancy.
Very good. Thank you for telling us about your Eyes on Site. And the committee will take it under advisement, and also Chief Folk will take it on as an advisement also. And whatever we can do to expand this, we will.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any others? Public comment? Okay, hearing and seeing none, we will move on. Let's go to agenda item C in your packet. At this point, we've got Chief David Folk will provide enforcement program update.
Thank you, Mr. Lang. We have a vacancy update. You'll see that we have 20 vacant positions. One reason why we have the vacant positions is because we are seeking to promote from within when we have qualified staff. I do want to take this opportunity to identify somebody that I believe it's official, or at least Marco Batista. Would you stand up for a minute? Longtime employee, investigative centers in Swift. He is our newest supervisor. He'll be supervising the Fresno office. So congratulations, Marco. On page 2, wanted to update the committee on our success in settling licensed consumer complaints. You'll see that fiscal year to date, we've returned more than $7 million to injured persons. We have a highlight relating to a heating and air conditioning case what's important is that we're seeing more consumers, many of them elderly, scammed by what we call the cell phone heater core scam, where they respond to a solicitation that they, being the consumer, the contractor comes out and determines, or at least alleges, I should say, that the unit needs to be removed and replaced. Scott Weber is with us today. He's the manager over the intake mediation centers, and Scott has worked closely with Gary Allman. He's the president of the Better Business Bureau. That outreach has proven very successful in identifying contractors that are engaged in the scam, and also a commitment from Gary Allman that he is going to he is looking to partner with the board on identifying the predatory contractors and working on outreach and investigative strategies to target these predatory contractors. Gary Allman reported that heating and air conditioning scams are the #1 concern today for the Better Business Bureau. Interestingly enough, I had the opportunity to meet with the consumer protection prosecutors in Berkeley a few weeks ago, and this was one of their main concerns as well. They're seeing many consumers being victimized by these scams, and it's hard to prosecute unless you put the cases together. You may need to conduct sting operations. A little bit later this afternoon, you're going to hear about a successful sting operation to target a suspect predatory contractor. But the scam works in many ways because they come out to the house, they claim that the heater core is cracked, and if that's true, carbon monoxide would leak into the house, could cause death or serious injury to the inhabitants. So they remove the heater core, take it off site, your evidence is left, and all they have to show for it is the picture on the heater core. And I sat down with a contractor a couple of months ago regarding one of these cases, and that's exactly what they did to me, and I fell for it. When it first hit me, I looked at the picture and I thought, you know what, that's the picture of somebody's cracked heater core, but it could have been anybody's, and that's the problem. So we're very pleased that Gary Allman wants to work with us. He's also given us what he calls a key so that we can access their complaint records. And so if we're looking at a contractor, we may have consumer complaints at the board, but we need to know how many complaints the Better Business Bureau has received. We now have that capability. At the bottom of the page, we have just more of a routine case where we have a kitchen remodel that went bad, and you'll see that the contractor did pay restitution of $27,000, quite a lot for a kitchen remodel. But it shows the extent our staff will go to settle a case and avoid the need to take disciplinary action. If a contractor made a mistake, we want to give them an opportunity to fix it. And the last one I thought was kind of interesting, where it's just a garage, I shouldn't say just, but it's a garage door repair that needed to be remedied, and the homeowner had been working with the contractor for 3 years, but through the intervention of our staff, we were finally able to convince the contractor to make the required repairs. One thing the enforcement staff have focused closely on is the need for building permits. We now have investigators in our intake mediation centers, one north, one south. They're looking at workers' comp and permit violations. But the highlight that's in the middle of page 3 really shows the need and the consumer harm that can occur when a permit is not obtained. With that highlight, we had 2 individuals that were killed because, as I understand it, the carbon monoxide poisoning. And the permit wasn't obtained. The owner knew a permit wouldn't be obtained, and because of that, the contractor was charged with a misdemeanor manslaughter for the death of the owner who knew a permit wasn't obtained, but felony manslaughter for his friend who had no involvement in deciding if a permit was needed or not. So it's a very sad story, but again, it's one of the reasons why we look so carefully at complaints to make sure permit requirements have been complied with. And at the bottom of page 3, nice example of how much more effective enforcement staff will be in the future when an investigator in an investigative center can partner with one of our well-trained and highly experienced SWIFT investigators at a sting. SWIFT investigators know how to put these stings together. They're experts in their field. What we're asking them to do is to allow an investigator from the investigative center to identify a contractor, and in this case, a contractor that doesn't have identification is a good target. or a contractor that's harmed a consumer that's likely to reoffend, still in business, bring that contractor out to the sting. That's why we included that highlight. On the bottom of page 5, wanted to provide you an update of we call it the Avi Goslin investigation. It's wide-ranging in that Avi Goslin, as I understand it, is he's going to serve 12 months in state prison now that he's pled out. But what's interesting about that case is it was quite the web that he developed, in that he had qualifiers not actively involved, he had other individuals unlicensed out scamming consumers, and one of those associates of him was Simon Cohen, who's a revoked licensee. And the reason we included this highlight is because it shows just how damaging it can be to a consumer when they're victimized by a skilled person such as Mr. Cohen. And what happened is Mr. Cohen was able to secure the deed on an elderly victim's home. And fortunately, through our efforts to work with the DA, we were able to return that home to the elderly victim and received a check for $500,000 from Mr. Cohen to pay restitution to injured persons. So that had a strong, a good ending, but it doesn't always happen that way. It's why it's so important we continue to work effectively with our Public Affairs Office. And with that, I would turn to page 8, and I wanted to provide an update of our complaint handling statistics. And if you look at the top paragraph, you'll see that currently our pending caseload is 2,700 complaints, and that's below our threshold, our ideal threshold of 2,900 complaints. So we're right where we want to be. One highlight is our settling of complaints at 37%. I understand that for the intake mediation centers, it's at 41%. And that is something we're always looking to do, when possible, with a licensed complaint, look for opportunities to settle it. On page 10, we've provided sting highlights, and many of you here are recipients of Registrar Steve Sand's report, where you probably have seen some of this. I wanted to point out the sting in Pioneer really stood out as to the type of unlicensed individuals that are coming out to the operation. If you look at this, one of the suspects had to be held at gunpoint. We had another one that found to be in probation for making terrorist threats. Another one had a prior conviction as a sex offender. It was a pretty wild sting. Are any of our guys here part of that sting? So, Marco and Jose. And with that, I would turn it over to our excellent Deputy Chief, Christina Delp. And Christina is going to give us some highlights of the blitz that was just concluded.
Thank you, Chief Vogt. So on March 25th, 26th, and 27th, simultaneous undercover operations were held in 9 counties throughout the state. SWIFT staff partnered with a variety of law enforcement agencies and arrested 121 individuals who now may face misdemeanor charges for contracting without a license. Most of the targets were obtained through illegal advertisements found in Craigslist for services such as painting, flooring, masonry, fencing, and concrete work. Besides a few repeat offenders and a suspect that's awaiting trial for assault with a deadly weapons charge, a couple atypical highlights were one individual was issued a notice to appear at the Sacramento sting and received a second notice to appear the following day when he showed up at the Yolo County sting. Additionally, one suspect arrived late and to give a bid because he was taking the CSLB trade exam. So those were a couple of interesting highlights. All in all, it was a very successful blitz, and a few of our staff are in attendance today, which raise your hands. So we'd like to thank you and all of the SWIFT staff for their efforts and hard work in conducting an outstanding operation.
Very good. Thank you for your report. And any comments from Dave and the deputy before we continue? Okay, anyone else have anything to say? Okay, let's go on page 12 of the same packet. Okay, training coordinator Dave Galbraith will now provide an overview of the CSLB Investigation Academy. As a post-certified instructor and former CHP captain with 30 years of peace officer experience, Mr. Galbraith served as a monitor and trainer for enforcement staff. Mr. Galbraith.
Thanks, Ed. You know, our registrar came to us. We've been teaching courses that are specific to our investigative responsibilities. And I teamed up about 4 years ago with the Attorney General's office, our liaison, Mike Franklin. And it's kind of unique to get a policeman and a lawyer to agree on things, but it worked out really well in the classroom. And we've developed a lot of module training. We have modules 1 through 4 now. And in teaching these classes, our registrar asked us, is there any reason why we can't develop an academy so that it won't be a training for the era, it'll be a training that will be established for years to come and be a staple for CSLB. But the academy will serve as a standard of training. A lot of professional organizations have an academy, they go through the training, and since we're statewide, an investigator down in San Diego should have the same training up here in Sacramento. And so the academy is going to be a 40-hour academy. Our first academy is slated for May 12th through the 16th. And it's going to incorporate ethics and basic investigative techniques and Prop 115 certification. And Prop 115 is the ability for our investigators to give hearsay evidence at felony prelim hearings in criminal court. Day 2, we're going to do some code training, business and professions code, and we'll do interview techniques, and it'll include a workshop. And really, that's modules 1 and 2. And we added a module 4, which is more code training, phone tactics, and time management. And then on the 4th day, we'll get into report writing, which involves a case file with exhibits where the people attending the academy will write a report. Mike and I, the next day, will give our personal assessments of that writing assignment, give them tips on how to improve the writing, and then on the 5th day, they'll have to, they'll go through a lecture of court testimony, and then we'll have a mock trial, and then they'll have to testify from the report that they made in the module on report writing. So I think it's a very good thing to have an academy, and I think for longevity, I think Mike and I need to search out instructors from CSLB that can carry on the training for years to come, so that it won't be training now and maybe in the future not available. But having an academy will not only set the standard, it will also add to our credibility for the Contractors State License Board, and also help investigators have a personal portfolio for their upward mobility or any career path that they choose to pursue. And it is all about credibility. So that's what we have planned, and we'll launch in May, like I said, and we hope to have 2 academies a year. The good thing about it is we've taught a lot of these modules, and a high percentage of our people, with adding 1 class, will be in a position to get their academy graduation certificate. So then we can concentrate just on our new employees going through the academy. So everybody should have a standard of training and be all caught up in a relatively short order. So is there any questions that I can answer for you? Okay.
Very good. Thank you for that report. Let's give him a hand on that. I'd like to thank our registrar, Steve Sand, for pushing that. That's what we're calling the pushing envelope, and we got it, so we're moving right along. So thank you for implementing those processes. Are there any public comment from this discussion so far and from agenda item 3? Okay, hearing and seeing none, let's go to agenda item D. And that's review and recommendation regarding peace officers' duties. Chief Folk, would you review that, please?
Thank you. The board has the authority for 12 peace officers. Currently, we have 10 of those peace officer positions filled. 8 out of the 10 were peace officers that came to us from either Department of Justice, Department of Corrections. We have some that were parole officers. They didn't have a lot of CSLB, they had no CSLB experience. And for the last year, we've been providing to them training and investigations that have enabled them to develop into competent CSLB investigators. They're handled a lot of the more routine cases, but where they're at today is they're making the segue into performing the criminal investigations, and that's the direction that the board has asked us to take them. What we have discovered, though, and this has come from meetings that we have with the peace officers on a monthly basis, is that the instruction they're getting from the various investigative centers, it varies. The investigative center supervisor's main focus is on consumer complaints, taking that phone call from an unhappy homeowner or an unhappy contractor. Generally, they're looking at administrative remedies for those investigations. What we want to do is to have CSLB peace officers recognized as the authority in this state for the investigation of elder abuse and also other criminal investigations. I talked about Avi Goslin. That was conducted by Bernard Lim, a longtime CSLB employee. Bernard was promoted to a peace officer, but in large part, he made that successful investigation happen. And the peace officers have recommended, they put a concept paper together, they made a presentation, and that recommendation is that they would have a standardized direction from one supervisor. And that's what you see in your packet. It's a proposal that would have all of the peace officers reporting to an enforcement supervisor one, and that enforcement supervisor one would report to Christina Delp. We would also ask that consideration be given to having support staff at a minimum. We need an office technician to open and assign complaints, but also to help process their legal actions. And I guess in closing, what this would do is it would provide for more of a standardized approach. It would enable our partners, such as the Department of Insurance, to come in and provide training to all of the peace officers with one person that would be identified, that being the supervisor, to ensure that the training they received was followed up on, but also to share best practices. One size doesn't fit all when you're working with consumer protection DAs, but you can take some of the success that you gain from that county and share that with your coworkers. You can also share with them some of the strategies that you used that maybe didn't work that well. But the idea that they have is under one supervisor, they're going to be more effective. They really want to focus on getting those cases, when appropriate, filed, referred to the DA with criminal charges filed, and at the end of the year be able to report back on the very bad contractors that they took off the street and the criminal convictions they achieved.
Thank you, Chief Folk, for that. Just look on page 3 of that same section there. You see the art chart, and this is what he's getting at. The Enforcement Committee is being asked to present the following recommendation to the full board for approval. Restructure the Special Investigation Unit and have the peace officers reporting to one enforcement supervisor. The Special Investigation Unit would report to the Deputy Chief of Enforcement and focus on elder abuse cases and target repeat offenders who prey upon the elderly citizen. Do I have a motion on that?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, it's been properly moved and second that the aforementioned motion be approved and sent to the main board, the full board. You have time to consider. Are there any objections? Okay, hearing and seeing none. All in favor?
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to interrupt. At this point in time, with the motion and second, would it be appropriate for you to ask for any public comment on the motion as it
Okay.
stands before the committee?
Before it goes. Any public comment as it stands before the committee? Okay, hearing and seeing none, we'll proceed. All in favor, signify by aye. Any opposes? Okay, motion passed. This will go to the full board when we meet. Okay. That ends that discussion. Any public comment on this section at all before we move on to agenda item E? Okay. Agenda item E, review of previously established enforcement priorities. Chief Folk, would you take that over?
Yes, on page 1, you'll see the matrix that was developed by Anna Rodriguez at the recommendation of former board member Jim Miller. And what it does is, in the event that our caseload is too heavy, it would allow us to prioritize our workload. We're able to handle our workload with one possible exception, and that is the number of leads that come in. Our SWIFT staff, because they do an excellent job, they do receive more leads than they can possibly respond to. And so you'll see that some of those leads would be considered lower priorities. One would be advertising violations, workers' comp's high priority. But if they receive a lead for an out-of-class contractor or something that's considered to be less severe, they may ask the informant to send the information in. They're conducting stings or performing sweeps. Some of those leads are being handled by the Intake Mediation Center. But that's what this chart allows us to do, to defend our prioritization of our workload, whether it's reactive in handling consumer complaints or proactive in working with our industry partners and deciding what we can and can't physically get to as far as it would relate to running of a lead.
Thank you, Chief Folk. I know that this has been a success story in the enforcement prioritization of their task. Do you think it's possible to do the similar chart in Public Works?
Yeah, it's another interesting area that we could look at, and that is the number of referrals. One thing we've covered at prior meetings is our new disclosure ability, where if a partner or an awarding agency has taken an action, we can link to that action on the CSLB website. You just would put the license number in, and then the website would allow you to link up to, say, Division of Labor Standards Enforcement or Caltrans. So there is an opportunity to develop another prioritization chart. We want to always be in position to go after the contractors that are causing a lot of harm. And what we find in Public Works is that harm is perpetrated on the awarding agency, but who really suffers the most is often the worker. The worker that wasn't paid prevailing wage, or in many cases not paid at all. You know, they performed the work only to have the contractor file bankruptcy and discharge the debt. And so for the serious ones such as that, we want to be in position to take an administrative action timely. If it's less serious, perhaps just linking up to a partnering website or even to a city or county website would be sufficient. So we could look at that if the committee would like for us to do so.
Any comments from the committee? I think it'd be a great idea to move forward in that area.
I think so too.
Okay. Any other comments on that? Okay. Good. Thank you, Dave, for that. Are there any public comments on this item? Yes. Come forward, please.
A question, is the x-axis the source of the referral?
Is that, are you referring to page 1, the chart?
Yes, on the left side would be the source of the referral, yes.
Thank you.
Starting with elected officials, meaning if the governor calls, could be important, and ending with the anonymous tip.
That's really good. Okay. I like your comments there. Okay, moving on to agenda item F. Yeah, it's in your packet. Review and recommendation regarding the 2014 enforcement strategies, okay? Chief Folk.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Lang. We've been taking a look at waiver apps on a limited basis, and waiver app is an app that is received for an original license where the qualifier does not have to sit for the exam. And what we've done is we've looked at waiver applications that have someone that's qualifying a third license. And what we're finding is that the complaint ratio is quite high. We're also finding that many of these entities were established by qualifiers that aren't actively involved. And so what we're asking the committee to consider is identifying 2 of our enforcement representatives to develop a strategy or criteria so that we could look at suspect waiver apps. And the ones that cause us concern would be someone that's qualifying multiple licenses within a short period of time, that they're appearing on a 3rd license, that the entities they're qualifying are not geographically located, just to see if we do have a consumer protection issue. And if we do, we'd be able to come back to the committee with strategies on how we should address that problem.
Thank you, Dave, for that explanation of this and your need to move forward. On page 1, there is a motion there that should be a motion. The Enforcement Committee is being asked to present the following recommendation to the full board. That we designate 2 enforcement representatives, as I hear what Dave is saying, be identified to research and investigate suspicious waiver applications. And if no comments on that, will we entertain a motion at this time? Any public comments?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second that we address this item to the full board. Any comments from the public? Any dissenting from the board, from the committee? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposes? Hearing and seeing none, the motion carried. So this will go to the full board. On page 2 of the packet, predatory service and repair scams are on the rise. These companies often target the elderly and who fall victim to their predatory solicitation. Chief Folk will discuss a proposed solution to tackle these unscrupulous contractors, who also have with us today Peace Officer Joseph Martinez, who will update the committee on the sting he conducted last week to address this growing problem. Chief Folk.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to just provide some background on our efforts to address problems within the heating and air conditioning industry. Talked previously a little bit about the predatory contractors that are out scamming consumers. But we also have other problems within that industry. When we look at the licensees in specific geographical areas and determine whether they have a workers' comp policy or not, what we're finding is that the majority of them do not have a workers' comp policy. And recently in one county, we sent out 150 letters to contractors that had a C20 class and we believe are performing work that requires workers' comp, and they do not have a policy. Interestingly enough, only one of those contractors obtained a policy. It was really shocking. And we told them that we're going to be looking at you and you're likely to be called out in a sting, but only one of them obtained a policy. That's a problem. We think we have a real opportunity, though, in the heating and air conditioning industry to partner with consumers to get the word out that if you've had an installation, if it's a residential change-out and your unit was over 20 years old, the statistics show that you're likely receiving 30% leakage with your ductwork. And if you didn't get a permit, you didn't get a tester to come out and seal your ducts and find out what your leakage is, you're likely losing at least 10% on your energy bill each month. And you can go to the your website for PG&E or SMUD or whatever your utility is, and you can find out what you're paying each month that you would not have to pay if the unit would have been installed appropriately. We've looked at our complaints received within the last 6 months or so and found approximately 70 heating and air conditioning complaints. That majority of those have evidence of permit violations in them. And the contractors are being required to go back at their expense to make the necessary corrections. And so with that information in hand, what we're proposing to do is partner with the industry that are playing by the rules, doing the job right, and we're going to be kicking off an ambassador program on May the 5th. And our Vice Chair, David Diaz, is with us today. And he's been instrumental in, one, helping us obtain the data that's supporting this, but also in finding us a meeting location. So thank you, David. But what we're asking is that we take this seriously, and to do so, we're going to need to identify staff that will focus, at least, I would say for the next 12 months probably, to work with the Better Business Bureau, to work with the DAs, to put together strategies to address this problem, and when the criminal charges are filed, to publicize them. And that's why I'm looking forward to hearing from Joseph Martinez this afternoon, who has been working very closely with the DAs and really coming up with his own strategies to address this problem. So you want Joseph to come up?
Yes. Joseph, will you come up, please?
Thank you, and good afternoon. My name is
Good
Joseph
afternoon.
Martinez. I just want to give you a brief summary of the investigation I'm looking into in regards to the predatory service and repair in the HVAC industry. Now, during my investigation, I actually became aware of this type of predatory service and repair when I was working on one of my previous investigations that was an elder abuse investigation. During this investigation, I talked to the homeowner, and she told me what would happen, basically, and said that there's also additional complaints with the Better Business Bureau. At that time, I checked the Better Business Bureau and identified an additional 20 complaints that were never filed to the Contractors Board. So I did my own investigation and contacted each of those people. There were a few that opted out, but we obtained statements from 17 people. They basically shared the same information, that they had a problem with either their air conditioner or their heater, and they called this company out for repair. And during that inspection, the company would say the system is completely bad. There's no repair that can be done to it. You have to buy a new one for thousands of dollars. In most cases, they denied the upsell because they just couldn't afford it. And as a result, they would contact a second contractor that would indicate that that fact is not the case. The unit is working fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Some cases it'd be a part that just need to be replaced for about $100. In my investigation, I noticed that that was a common issue or a common mode of operation that we're trying to do. And in my 17 cases, there was also 3 cases that were also elder abuse cases. And based on this information, I took it to the district attorney's office in El Dorado, and also looking to work with other agencies as well to identify any additional complaints or issues that can be addressed. I did find that the common violation is theft by false pretense in these cases, also offering services beyond the amount to repair the systems. Each of these criminal violations on top of the elder abuse and other issues as well. During my investigation, I noticed that there was about 11 air conditioner repair complaints, 3 furnace repair complaints, 2 HVAC install complaints, and 1 air conditioner install complaint. So it kind of goes across the board as to all the different systems in the HVAC system, but they all kind of stemmed from the one service call. It all came from these people offering a cheap service to repair a system, and then saying it cannot be repaired for that amount, and as a way in the door to charge more money. In my investigation, I'm also working with the DA's office in El Dorado, Amador County, also with Placer County. I'm working with the insurance company, EDD, Department of Labor, Department of Insurance, Better Business Bureau. And they're all helping me in assisting to find a way to stop this type of consumer fraud. That's it. Any questions on that?
I have a question there. Since I'm a senior citizen myself, how did you go about and the best way to detect that the person that you have out to your home giving you the right answer? Is there someone we can say, okay, I'm going to call an expert out and verify this?
Yes, that's actually a really good question, and it seems to be that it's a pattern as well. Anytime a contractor is telling you it has to be done now, there's no time to think about it. Otherwise, it could be serious risk to your life or safety. In many cases, they would say the same thing, where it was a crack in a heat exchanger, show you a picture on a cell phone or some other type of device, and say that PG&E is going to shut down your gas. Things like that are red flags to say that you can't get a second opinion. You have to decide now, or if you don't decide now, it's going to be more money. These are all predatory type of lures to get you into that contract right now. That's usually how those companies operate, is that there's an urgency to do it right now. So that could be a red flag or something to look out for.
Okay. You want to say something to that, Dave?
Yeah, if I could just comment on that. That's why it's always a good idea as a consumer to have pre-qualified a service and repair contractor, and that in the event that you need to call somebody in an emergency. But also what the Northern California consumer prosecutors have told me is that they don't consider, any of this work, unless you truly had carbon monoxide poisoning, to be an emergency. That 3-day right to rescind, it needs to be complied with by the contractor. And if it's not, and I think that's something that you're looking at, Joseph, that can be considered an unfair business practice when you're going out and not allowing somebody a cooling off period to shop around and make sure the work truly needs to be done, and that's a fair price for it.
Well, that's right. And in this particular case, we're looking at unfair business practice with the DA, criminal elder abuse, and also premium fraud.
Good. Will that be highlighted in the next few weeks to the senior citizens where they may be? And
I do hope so. We asked them to do a follow-up investigation, so we're doing that now. So
Okay.
it's still currently pending.
a lot of PR work? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I let the board know a few weeks ago that we were hoping this will be a real focus for the board in the next year or so. Rick Lopes and David, and we're all going to be looking at a multi-pronged approach to not only go after these operators, but get the word out to protect especially seniors. We're hoping to do address it in a multitude of ways: TV, radio, press releases, enforcement actions, senior scam stoppers, working with the Better Business Bureau, local officials. So that's something we hope to be discussing at the next strategic planning session. Dave, is there anything you want to add to that, or? All right.
I think it was very comprehensive.
Oh, that's good. Thanks, Steve, for the update on that.
Dave Diaz, board member. I've been in the HVAC industry for, 33 years now. Put in a lot of HVAC equipment. One thing I would like to stress when maybe you guys talk to senior citizens is, even if they do have a cracked heat exchanger, there is no reason to put a new air conditioning in. Okay, I mean, pull the furnace out, put a new one in, but you can keep the same coil and air conditioning, unless they want to upgrade, but that's a whole different thing. It's nothing to do with emergency.
That's a good point.
And most of the time, a cracked heat exchanger, you're going to know it's going to pop, and it's going to do a lot of other things that the person probably really wasn't doing if they're just calling in for a tune-up. So that's just some of the stuff. And of course, if the board ever needs my help on any of that, just let me know.
Get your number there.
Oh, they have.
Okay. Dave, would you cover the last one there? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't
That's
see.
all right. Quick question,
Apologize.
Richard Markson, Plumbing, Heating, Cooling Contractors of California. On the top of page 3, you have the sample ad, and you call it a predatory solicitation. I wonder if someone could explain what the elements in that ad are that represent a predatory solicitation. Thank you.
Yeah, what we're concerned about with this ad specifically is the solicitation being that for $69, you get your heater tuned up. And what you'll see a lot of is where we have contractors that are mailing to property owners a solicitation to have them come out, tune up the system for whether it's $29 or $69, which that's fine. The problem with this solicitation specifically is that it includes all these rebates, and depending on your utility company, you're only entitled to those rebates if you get a permit and you get it finalized. So if somebody is responding to an ad and in some ways, you're bringing somebody out, you're paying them $69 to sell you a new unit, one, that unit needs to be needed. It needs to be, in what you're saying, you can't be misrepresenting the work, but two, you need to get the permit, you need to get the HERS rater to come out and seal the ductwork, make sure that you determine if you have leakage, and if you do, to fix it and get final inspection. So that's the issue. It's not in itself that this ad would be a problem. It's only a problem, though, when somebody responds to it, is upsell, or they get, it's misrepresentation, or you don't obtain the permit that's needed.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving right along, what we've heard here, and some very good information that we can start a process on. And the Enforcement Committee is being asked to present the following recommendation to the full board. Okay. You want to do it now? Okay. It's recommend that the CSLB peace officers be identified to partner with district attorneys, Better Business Bureaus, the industry partners to establish strategies and develop protocol to research and perform criminal investigation of construction-related violation committed by predatory heating and air conditioning contractors. I need a motion on that.
I'll move to adopt the recommendation.
Second.
Okay. Any comments from the public? Okay, it's been moved, properly moved in second, that we adopt the recommendation to go to the full board. You have time to consider. Are there any objections? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposes? Motion carried. We want to, the workers' compensation training models. David wanted to talk about that.
Earlier today, we had a meeting at the Department of Insurance where their top management was present, and we talked about our 2014 strategies and the need to work very closely for our investigators to work very closely with their detectives. And what we're asking for here, though, is that we establish training modules that would be more structured, that would include the Department of Insurance. That training module would include joint instruction, learning more about how to put together insurance fraud, partnering one of our investigators, one of the Contractors Board investigators, with the CDI detective, and also with the elder abuse. That is so important that, as I mentioned earlier, to become experts in the investigation of elder abuse. Many of the DAs have dedicated staff to work with us on joint investigations, but also to serve as instructors for our staff. And so we're asking the board to direct enforcement staff to put together established modules that would be very similar to what Doug Galbraith has discussed. They would be in place. Those modules could continue. The instructors may change, but it would be more formalized, and it would be something that we would expect our peace officers to attend.
Very good. Thank you, Dave. That wraps up. If anyone have anything else they want to bring before the committee, I really appreciate you coming out in the rainy weather and all this. I'd like to give thanks to Chief Sand and our administration for the accomplishment and activity book that you received, as well as the California Legislative Packet Directory. And he keeps us informed. Thank you.
Before we adjourn,
Sure.
to be the bearer of bad news, but how many members do we have slotted to the enforcement committee? Is there 5 or is there 6? Because we have 3 members. If we have a 6 and we have 5, then we have a quorum 3 out of 5.
There's 6.
There's 6.
Mm-hmm.
Does it matter for a committee?
Well,
When I was architects board, we never cared.
Well, generally speaking, you would have to have a majority of those here, so that's what I'm saying.
It's not a policy decision, it's just a recommendation.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a concern. I guess what we could do is just say
Make it a
that
subcommittee recommendation?
we can make a subcommittee, these could be considered, if it, with the pleasure of the committee, these could be considered subcommittee, will operate sort of as subcommittee, and then we could, at the upcoming board meeting, convene this with a full board and ratify it, and then make that recommendation at the full board. I was operating just on the agenda item A. It looks like we have 5 slots. Mr. Lang, Ms. Clifford, Mr. O'Rourke, Mr. Rush, Mr. Shetter. But on the first page, it appears we have 6. Mr. Lang, Mr. Clifford, Mr. Lamb, Mr. O'Rourke, Mr. Rush, and Mr. Shetter. So
That's
that second.
Hence my concern.
Another alternative is we can just do a report and then just have the board just adopt the recommendations from staff, so.
We could do that well, so if
It's
you
probably the
will
easiest way.
consider- If you will want to consider sort of, with the input of the three members that are here, as sort of a consolidated staff recommendation, and take that to the board itself.
Is that okay, Ed?
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Is there any objection to that by the remainder of the committee members?
No, I'm good.
Any objection? Okay.
I'm sorry for the last, it seems to be a bit of confusion between agenda item A and the sort of second page in, and the enforcement committee meeting with the actual agenda, which is, the first page. I guess Mr. Lamb's name was omitted, so I apologize for the last minute confusion.
Okay, so be it. We can move on with that as a subcommittee report to the main board. Any other comments? And hearing none, meeting adjourned. Thank you.